and welcome here to my kaleidoscope taster session, my dear creative friend. I'm so excited to be here with you and looking forward to paint this beautiful, exciting project with you. My name is Ida Andersen Lang and I am an artist and art teacher from Copenhagen, Denmark. I've been teaching art and doing art myself, of course, all the way back since like forever, since I was a little child. Actually, I've been painting and drawing like the main thing I did, and already back in 1999 I taught my first drawing course, and ever since I've been really, passionate about what can we say, passing on the bliss of art making to you and to everybody who wants to join in that party of art making. So that's going to be super exciting to have you here. So what we're going to paint here in the kaleidoscope taster session is the beautiful little painting here. You see here a little river goddess, diva, angel, or whatever she is to you. We're gonna come back to that just in a few minutes. I have a few more important things that I want to talk to you about, but we'll come back to this in just a second so you can get started really good. So let's see if I can get it to stand here again. Whoops, that went well. Okay, so first of all, I want to tell you an exciting thing. I have a little gift for you that I have created especially here for the Kaleidoscope Taster Sessions 2021. So let me show you that first. You can download that and own it forever. It's a 1-hour free video training especially made for this exciting kaleidoscope course. So here is my little taster session bonus gift for you. One of the things that I've been really, I'm being asked about that repeatedly, of course, that's a very important subject, is how to mix skin tones. So I've created a little lesson. It's a 1-hour full lesson for you, where we're gonna paint and mix these skin tones. As I tell you in that lesson, there are a million varieties of skin tones. So this is like a startup lesson, a key or recipe, we can say, to how you can unlock that mixing skin tones. We're just mixing from 3-4 base colors here, a blue, a red, and a muted yellow, and a little bit more things. And we're opening up and painting hands on all these tones, having a lot of fun with that. So that is going to be my gift for you for this round. So down below here you see a little button of a kind, and you just click that button and that takes you to the page where you can sign up to download this bonus gift, and you own it forever. You can download it to your computer and enjoy that forever. That's my gift for you. And the thing is that this information I teach you here goes actually with the other lesson. Here I go over the skin mixing like very quick, like 1-minute version, and here we go 1 hour deep and mixing all kinds of skin tones, so you can adjust the faces, the figures you're painting to what you like to paint, what responds and corresponds to you. All varieties of skin tones. So that's super exciting. Looking so much forward to share that with you. So just click the button below and you can download that and own it forever. So let's see, I have a little checklist here. For this project I've been drawing a motif for you. We're gonna focus on the color mixing here in Kaleidoscope, in opening up, mixing and painting with beautiful harmonious colors. So I have created a drawing for you for this project. It takes time to draw and we want to paint something beautiful. So I pre-made this river goddess or diva or angel or whatever she is to you, of the River Nile. I think the River Nile is super exciting subject. It has so like deep and rich roots in the history of our what is it called, cultures that we all part of. So, but you can adjust this to be any river you like, any goddess or diva or angel or spirit or someone you know and love, or whatever you feel like. You just mix things up and make it your own. But I've created this page for you so you can very easily tap into this lesson. So you can either be inspired and draw your own from inspirations, this and from the finished painting, in however way you like. And if you feel like painting one-to-one with me, what you can do is trace the image to just get quickly to the painting part of this. That's kind of the important thing in this context. So I'll just show you very, very quick how you can trace if you haven't done this before. If you have, you just do the thing the way you usually do. So what you can do, I'll just make a little demo here, if I can. So you you print out this, and you simply add some, I've added a little bit of graphite up front here. You simply cover the whole thing with graphite on the back, and then you take your watercolor paper. This is a little bit too small, of course, it's just a demo. Then you put the watercolor underneath the watercolor paper, and then you add the image you're tracing from on top. This one was a little bit of a soft graphite, and then you take, maybe if you have one, a harder graphite pencil, and then let's see, you just trace the image. Let's see if that went well. I don't know, but if you can see it, you probably can't. But that way you can transfer the image. Let's just do a little bit here, a little bit quick, and then you can either just start painting, but I recommend that you do what can we say, draw your motif, so you get a beautiful drawing underneath. We're gonna do a lot of layers in watercolor, in pastel, and in color pencils, and we're gonna talk a little bit more about that. You just use the materials you have, right? This is a lesson about color, and you just go with the flow and let yourself be inspired. But I recommend you do a good drawing underneath, so you get like a good start with this. And yeah, that's kind of it. So finally, I wanted to talk a little bit. Oh, one more thing about the tracing image. You know, I made this for you to enjoy, so feel free to print it out, and you can also, just on photocopy paper, you can actually experiment with different color schemes. I did that before I chose this one, just very quick with color pencils or whatever you have, a little bit of watercolor. Don't mind if the paper is warping and stuff. You know, just play with it, because that's really something you can learn a lot from and have a lot of nice aha moments. So feel free to print it out, and you can also share it with your kids or kids you know, other people you know. Feel free to do that and just have fun with the motif and fun with the painting. So the last thing I want to say before we start painting, I'm gonna walk you through everything. This lesson is time-lapse, but I'm gonna voice the whole thing over and go through everything I do, so you can know what I'm doing. And then before we start, I just wanted to say one word about my main lesson for Kaleidoscope, which is also super exciting. And I've prepared one more beautiful color scheme. This is a color scheme that is playing, we can say, over in the, can you see that, over in the violet, blue, a little bit orangey spectrum of the color circle. And that's what we're doing here, harmonizing those colors. And in my main lesson, we're gonna do another combo, another harmonized color combination. That's I'm also super excited to share that with you, but that's gonna be a surprise for later. But we're gonna work with a portrait also, and goes along with the skin tone mixing session too, that you can download. Just click the button below and you can download it. Goes with everything, with all my lessons, also all other kinds of You can just mix and match into your own. But we're gonna, of course, focus once more on a beautiful little portrait element and some nature elements. I am a great lover of nature and the divine feminine, so that's kind of what my art revolves around. You just make it your own and add your own symbology and your own spirits or devas or goddesses and all that, whatever you feel like. So, but we're gonna make a new color scheme, a new project with the portrait, and also adding a little bit of animal companions or animal spirits, if you like. So let's get on with it. I'm super excited to walk you through this project, and I can't wait to see what you'll create. So I'll see you online, and I wish you, before we start here, happy painting. And remember to have fun and relax and take the art journey as a, a fun thing to do. So I'll see you in a moment in the painting session. Bye bye. All right, let's get started. As you can see, I have mounted and put my watercolor paper to a surface here, and we are heading right into mixing skin tones here. I drawn the motif, and actually I printed it out here just so you know on watercolor paper. So later you will actually see that the colors from the print bleeds a little bit. So it's just so you know. It was just to save some time. You can do that also if you like. So just so you know. But let's get started here. As you can see, I'm mixing a basic skin tone from the quinacridone red and the yellow ochre, adding a little bit of white, and then we are just going to layer in a simple layer of watercolor. Also, I want you to know from the beginning that the painting of this project, what you see here on the time lapse, was actually 3 hours and a little bit more. So it's very compressed here. So remember to relax and, don't rush it. Take your time to make a beautiful piece of art. As you can see, the print color is bleeding a little bit here, but it doesn't really matter because it's all gonna just mix beautifully into each other in the end. So it's just if you're wondering where that gray color comes from. It's something I do sometimes because I already painted, I already drew the drawing once. And I thought it would be great just to have my original lines on the watercolor paper. So I'm just gently adding one base color of skin tone here, and as you can see, I also blow dry it a little bit as we go. So I'm adding one more layer because I thought it needed a little bit more depth in the tone, and it can be good to add 2 layers, thin layers on top of each other. Adding watercolor on top, layer by layer, is a wonderful classical watercolor technique. But in this project, we're just gonna add a simple layer of loose, painterly watercolor, and then we're gonna move on to some other materials too: dry pastel, pen pastel, dry pastel, and color pencil. So here I'm mixing a purple from the ultramarine blue and the quinacridone magenta, and also adding a little bit of the burnt sienna that gives a muted and gentle deep purple. So experiment with mixing those 3 colors and find your own favorite purple. There are like a million varieties to this, and it's all about mixing. As you will see in this lesson, I do spend a lot of time mixing the colors. That's what it's all about. That's great fun, and it's so magic to see the colors unfold. So I'm just adding the color in a painterly style and letting it dry naturally, overlapping the strokes, adding on top of each other, just in a simple painterly manner. The more time you put into it, of course, the more detailed and precise you can make your strokes. But painterly is really good also. I'm going very fast here, actually, also in real time. because we're gonna add a beautiful soft layer of pan pastel also later. So it's good that your painting looks a little rough and painterly here in the first stage. We're gonna refine that, so don't overdo the details in the beginning. We're also gonna do the face later, both in pan pastel and in the fine details in color pencil. So I'm just like forecasting a little bit as I'm painting the hair here, what's going to happen later. Here I'm just adding more of the same color, you know, starting up the hair, and then we'll add the other areas of the painting. And I want to say here that if you don't have any pan pastels, that could be both a brand pan pastel, it could be the Jane Davenport pastels or anything. I'm using a little bit of this and that so I show you that you don't have to go by any specific brand. But if you don't have any pastels, you will see me also use actually some eyeshadow and compressed powder. That's totally safe to use in your art. You'll see me do that a little bit also. If you have neither of that and you don't want to go and spend on it, you just skip right to the color pencil, or you simply just refine more in watercolor. There is no right and wrong. But I'm showing you my full layered mixed media process here, what I call classical mixed media, where I add different materials in a sequence that really is very graceful and very effective and really lends itself to wonderful detail. So, but first, let's concentrate on that beautiful layer of watercolor. So adding watercolor like this, stroke by stroke, and leaving the strokes to dry naturally gives you a painterly and very lovely expression. And as I said, you can add as many layers of watercolor on top of each other as you like. We're just adding a few here, one or two. As you can see, I'm putting in a second layer here. Each time you add a new layer, you create more depth and more value, dark value in the colors. So every time you see me do that with my hands, I'm taking a break. It's so important. This looks like I'm painting super fast and in no time. But take breaks, you know? Leave your painting and take breaks. So we're mixing a blue for the watery background. So I'm taking the ultramarine again, and then I'm toning it a little bit with the purple I already had and adding, so that means adding a little bit of magenta, a little bit of burnt sienna, so to make my own blue. As you can see here, we're only using a few base colors, the ultramarine blue, the magenta, and the ochre and the burnt sienna. Also, you see me here shift up to a much bigger brush. Doesn't really matter what size it is, but if you use a bigger brush, you get more paint on it and everything flows more and you can paint faster. So this was a number 10 and a number 12. So I just add more and more color and just leave it in pools on the paper to settle naturally into the texture of the paper, which by the way is Canson Aquarelle XL brand, 300 grams. Could be any watercolor paper that you like. So as you can see, I'm also overlapping the colors in the hair with the blue. So I start to kind of merge the different areas of the painting together. And some of the details I just paint over them. That's all up to you how much time you're gonna spend on the details. The more details you, what can you say, take care of in your painting, the longer time it takes to paint. I'm painting pretty fast here. So you're gonna see me overlap and skip some of the details in the drawing, but it doesn't really matter. And that overlapping of color, for example, you can see here I'm overlapping a little bit on the hippo. And then smoothing out the color with just water. Whenever you see me do that trick there, I add water with the other brush and kind of blur the paint out into water. That's a good technique. It's going a little bit fast here, but you basically add some color to the paper and then you add water to blur it out with a second brush, just with water. If it went a little bit fast, you just wind back and view those parts again where I do that. So simply adding and mixing more of the same color. One more important thing is to mix enough of the different colors so you don't run dry too often. And you can see I use the same blue a little bit here and there in the hair to add shadow. So I balance all the colors in the spectrum of muted violet in the hair. That was like a purple violet, purple or violet depending on what word you prefer. And then I muted it a little bit with the burnt sienna, and then I used the same colors to mix my blue. So it's all balanced, what we'd call an analogous painting color scheme on that side of the color wheel. So we have the purple as one dominant color here, and then the neighboring colors, blue, and also what I'd call violet red, meaning a cold red. That's the magenta. So you see me here also painting her dress in the same color, in the same blue color, just with much more water in it, so it gets more transparent. That means in watercolor that you see the paper shine through more, and then you simply get a lighter color. That's a very classical approach to watercolor. So each time you see me use the hairdryer, remember this is very time-lapsed, and I cut out the sessions where I dry. So maybe I was drying like 2 minutes or so it's completely dry. Okay, so now we're gonna mix a toned down green, actually what we'd call an olive green. I do that from the ultramarine blue and the yellow ochre to paint the leaves of the water lilies. So in that way we add a little bit of hints from another part of the color wheel. Not a chromatic bright color, but a muted color. So it's not exactly on that chromatic color wheel, but we're over in the green department here. That's gonna add a contrast, a beautiful gentle contrast to the purple, blue, red color scheme without exactly going in for very contrasting colors. They are all muted, but green is the contrast color of red. So it's like kind of a close but not exact contrast color. And then for the water lilies, you can paint them any color you like, light or dark, whatever you prefer. But I'm going for a very clean magenta here, so I'm going for a more chromatic color, adding also a little bit of titanium white to it. So we have a nice pink color. So you can experiment with that and see what you find beautiful. And I'm gonna paint the center of the flowers in yellow and orange also. Yeah, we're gonna do that now. So that also gives like a little bit of spark, what I call juval colors. So you add small areas of more bright colors. That's a way I like to work. That adds a little bit of interest. So we're going in for the final stages of the watercolor session here. So I'm covering up her skin areas and then adding a little bit of spatters that really blends everything together in a very pleasing way. In my opinion, I like to do a little bit of spatters, just make them light and small. and it makes the colors come together kind of, and it's such a fast trick to do. So a little bit of this and a little bit of that. And then after this we're going in for a layer of pan pastel. You don't have pan pastel, I suggest you spend more time on refining in watercolor and then skip the pastel stages. But if you do have pastels by any means, I really recommend you try this because it works so well. Okay, I took a good break here and we came back and the painting is completely dry. And yeah, before we move on to the pastel session, we do have a little bit of touch up here. So I do what I call my lift off technique to add a little bit of white to the eyes. You can do that too, I recommend that if you paint it over them. Depending on the paper, it will get more or less white, but don't worry about that. We have plenty of tricks in our hat later to add the white in the eyes. But clean up the excess color. Same goes for the fingers. I kind of painted over them. And I want them to be skin colored. So she's like resting her hand on that gentle little hippo there. You know, for me, I like to work with the divine feminine. So just so you know, I was thinking about the ancient Egyptian goddess of Isis here. She's like a personification of many things, including the life-giving waters of the River Nile. And that's what I was thinking about when I created this. Okay, here you can see you can also smooth out if you have some areas that bled over. You can smooth out and brush up those areas. So you can also do a little bit of the lift off technique I showed you for the nose and so on. In some paintings, that's something I go in on really deep and spend hours on it. You can do so much with that. So I'm just brushing up a little bit, and you can see cleaning up areas where there might be some roughness. That's an easy thing to do. Just with a little bit of a tippy brush, and then you clean it up. It takes a little bit of practice, but it's a good technique to clean up and also lighten up areas. For example, also I painted over her ear, so I can bring it out here very easily, as you can see. So we're just making some final touches here before we go into the pastel stage. So spend as much time on it as you like. I'm going super fast here. So I could cram all this goodness into this little lesson, but you can of course spend more time on each stage, so to get a more refined expression, but you know, also staying a little bit painterly and rough can be really beautiful, and when we add the detail layers, it's gonna be very beautiful underneath. Okay, so here I'm going in for my Jane Davenport sets, also a little bit of pan pastels, and as you can see, some arbitrary eyeshadows and a compressed makeup powder, some makeup applicators and cotton sticks and dry brushes to add the pastel. So experiment with what you have. And don't be afraid of using makeup. They are so like pan pastel. I'm not afraid of doing that. As you can see here, it works really, really well. And instantly we get a softer expression. So I'm smoothing out the skin areas, so you can see all the roughness from the watercolor kind of just makes a beautiful backdrop of this more soft layer. So here I'm adding the Jane Davenport instead, just to show you that you can use many different things, many different materials. It doesn't really matter, just play with it and use what you have. Sometimes I brush off the excess dust a little bit, but don't blow on it, especially if you are concerned about dust in the air. So avoid blowing on it. So adding a little bit of redness to her cheeks. I guess this color here in the Jane Davenport birthday suit has become my favorite for that. Okay, I don't know what the color is called actually, but you know what I'm talking about. If you have it, I can only recommend these. They're really nice. So we're gonna add a soft pastel layer to the whole painting. Just wait and see. It's really gonna unify everything. You can add soft shadows here also along edges. As you can see, things are starting to come together. And we can add shadow in the hair. Just going area by area, and it's such a wonderful thing to do on top of the watercolor. So after we've done this layer, the whole thing has changed in appearance. And you can play with adding both light and shadow here, so you can also add white and light colors and really experiment and really go deep on this also. As I'm saying once more, I am working really fast here, also in the real time. So remember to relax. I would say that the project here would be suitable if you set off time for it, like 2 afternoons, so you can have some proper breaks and think straight and so on. Do the drawing also if you like, depending on how you choose to add the drawing stage. So just relax with this, and really pay attention to what is happening with the colors. Here I'm adding the Payne's Gray from the Pan Pastel brand. I like that very much. In the Jane Davenport's sets, there is not a color that is as like dark blue, black blue. So it's good to have a little bit of this and a little bit of that, and then you just mix it up. They go together beautifully. I do have a lot of pan pastels, but after I got the Jane Davenport, I really find that having those like palettes with all those colors, it's just so beautiful and easy. So yeah. So the aim here, as I said, is to cover the whole surface with pastel, light or dark or colory or whatever, to get a unified and even layer. And you also cover all holidays, as we'd say in Danish. If there are any areas that didn't get any color and you see the white paper go through, then you can just touch it up with pastel in a very fast and easy manner. And fast techniques, not that you have to work fast, but effective techniques can be really good, especially if you go for paintings with a lot of detail, because you do really save a lot of time. And after all, we do want to accomplish at least something in the time we're sitting. And yeah, so it's very effective. As I'm filling out here, let me talk a little bit about varnishing your painting. That's something I'm always and often asked. You don't have to varnish paintings, even if they are with pastels. You just have to be careful with how you store them. They don't like to be rubbed against anything. So if you store your paintings like in a pile on your table, that's fine, but don't scramble around with them. That's going to ruin them. So if you do that, then it's good to add a soft layer of varnish. I would recommend spray varnish from any artist brand. It needs to be artist varnish, not hairspray. Please, no hairspray. It's not good for your paintings. But it's good, and just remember, when you spray from a very safe distance, so you just have like a fine hazy mist coming down on your painting. Spray for like 1-2 seconds, leave to dry, and then repeat 2 or maybe 3 times, but very thin coats, and let them dry properly in between, if you prefer that. It also brings out the colors a little bit. So, but you don't have to do that. If you don't spray them, just store them gently and safely so they don't rub against anything. also during maybe if you transport them from one place to the other. Yeah, so that was the talk about varnish. It's optional. I varnish some of my paintings and some I don't. I I prefer not to do that actually. I just try to store them very securely and gently. You can also mat them and put some cellophane around them, like instead of putting them behind glass. That's also gonna protect them. Okay, so as I was talking about that, you can see I'm just adding color to the different areas of the painting, and we're starting to get a more saturated and soft feeling. But we also get that painterliness showing through from the watercolor layer underneath, and that's really wonderful. Yeah, so let's take a little break and then we go a little bit more in on some details here. So you can see I had some like very white and non-finished areas in the centers of the flowers. So I just scrub in some yellow and some orange, and that works really easily here. And adding a little bit of a light pink to brighten up the flower petals a little bit, bring them out a little bit more, making them a little bit more light. As you can see, you get like a nice painterly expression working in this way. So just brushing up on different areas I had already been going over. We can add some shadows to the face. Now this is a small drawing, so the face is rather small. Maybe you printed it out in double size, I don't know, but if you paint A4 like I do, it's very small. And you can also clean up with a little bit of a kneaded eraser. As you can see here, it's easy to remove the pan pastel with the kneaded eraser. So I'm adding some more shadow along the edges and so on over the eye, so you can bring out light and shadow and experiment a little bit with that. The good thing with pan pastel is that it's quite moldable. You can change it up as you go. A little bit of highlights. I really like the white pan pastel. It's very powerful white. It really gives a very bright white. Clean titanium white pan pastel. That's good to have. The same with the hippo, adding a little bit of white to bring out a little bit more contrast. As you can see, for example, along the shape of the hippo where it needs the water, you can bring out the shape by enhancing the contrast between light and dark. That's one aspect of painting, the light and the dark values within the same colors. You can do a lot of like nice shadow work along the edges here. It's just a matter of time. So that's kind of what I'm doing now, adding some shadows along the edges, in the hair, in the dress, along the flowers, and so on. As you can see, we still need to work on the fish also. We're just going to do that now with a little bit of pan pastel in a very painterly way. In another scenario, I would have probably spent more time on those fish. It's all up to you how detailed you want to do that. But it's a nice feature, and yeah, they're so cute. I like them. So spend as much or as little time as you want on the details. Doesn't matter. We're going for the overall feeling of a painting. That's the whole of it. That's what's really important. Balancing of everything. Okay, took a break again and coming back. And we're going into the third stage here, adding detail in color pencils. waterproof color pencils. You can just use any color pencils because we're not going to use water again, so it's no problem. But I'm using the waterproof polychromos from Faber-Castell, and we're also going to use a little bit of Posca, of white Posca. It could be another brand also. It's just to add a little bit of white details. So you can see here, you can layer in wonderful sharp detail with the color pencils on top of pan pastel. I don't know what it is, but when you have pan pastel underneath in a soft layer like this, the color pencils just works fantastically. And if you want very fine detail, remember to keep the color pencils really sharp and pointy. That helps a lot. So we're gonna work a little bit on the eyes. So if you couldn't get the eyes in the white here, you can either enhance the white with a little bit of white watercolor, very gently, or you can add a little bit of white dry pastel. That's also a way to go, just to tell you. So yeah, I'm just adding line work here very intuitively. I don't really have a plan here. I'm working very light, and remember to keep the pressure on the paper super light. Super light, just barely touch the paper and you'll get color on it anyway. So try to be mindful about that if you want very fine lines. And you can of course work with many different colors. I'm just working with the dark sepia here. It's very dark. It's probably also too dark. In another scenario, I might have worked a lot more with picking different color pencils for different areas, but here I'm just working with some strong line work in the sepia and the dark sepia. Could also be black, any black, or brown, or blue brown, or blue black, or whatever. You just experiment with that. There's no right and wrong at all. So just use what you have and adapt and let things merge and blend in. So that one is called Pompeii and Red from Faber-Castell also. For the lips, I like that color. It's very natural. Little bit of enhancement of the cheeks also. As you can see, it bites kind of very well to the paper. It really adds some redness. So shifting to a little bit lighter color here, it's called Nougat, also Faber-Castell polychromos. And just enhancing a little bit here and there and everywhere. That's the light gray, just to make a little bit of shadow here and there on the eyelids and so on. And you can enhance the shadows like this also. Of course, the faster you work, the more grainy it will be. So if you like a very soft textured appearance, you will have to work very carefully and with very sharp pencils. Okay, so I decided, because I was working with the goddess Isis as my inspiration, to add the Horus eye here. It's a little bit it's a little bit gross, but for me it worked like a symbol for opening to see with your heart, opening the eye of your heart. That was kind of what I was thinking when I was painting that area of the painting, just so you know what my thoughts were. In another scenario, it could have been white also and shining, but here I just added it in like simple line work. As you could see, I also enhanced the white in the eyes a little bit with just the white color pencil. Works really well. Okay, so we're gonna add a little bit of reflections in her eyes. You be careful about that. Train the tip of your pencil, of the Posca first. As you can see, they got a little bit big, but it's okay. I mean, I like it. And we can work a little bit around them, as you'll see me do now, with the color pencil, just to narrow in a little bit. But be careful when you do that, so you don't like ruin it. I was very afraid of ruining that. So pay attention and train the tip of your pen before you go all in. So I'm shifting to a purple color pencil. It's called Caput Mortem Violet, also from Faber-Castell. I'm just adding some gentle line work here and there, the hair and flowers, and drawing a lot of hair strands on top. Works super efficiently also, so effective. So you can see the painting goes kind of through different stages, where we had that very painterly underground, on the underpainting it's called, in the watercolor, and we smooth out everything with the pan pastel, and then go in with details in color pencil. That's one of my favorite processes for working mixed media on paper. It's very forgiving, and very, you can paint the details in the end of the painting and be warmed up and really get to know your painting. Yeah, it's a wonderful sequence. I really love to do that. Of course, you need to try it a few times before you get accustomed to it, especially accustomed to making the final details until the very last moment. But it really gives you a fantastic backdrop to make those details on in the very end of the painting session, like the face and the centers of the flowers and so on and so forth. You can also add some really lovely light reflections on top of pan pastel, as you can see with white. This one is called Cream. It's not the white, it's called Cream, but still light. So adding texture, flowing strands of hair, and really making everything blend into each other. It's nice. And zooming in a little bit on the shapes of the fish. But I do like that they are painterly like this, because it really captures that feeling, like that they are in motion, flowing in her hair. I was like envisioning her hair like rivers running in different directions. Or yeah, I know she's having her hair in another river, she's lying in a river, so it's like a river in a river, but it's also symbolistically in context. It's a symbolic painting. I like to think of what the different parts of the painting symbolizes for me, and that can be different for everyone. So really feel your way into what you paint and what you want to add. Maybe you want to add another symbol than the one I did. Maybe you want to add another animal companion or animal spirit. It's all up to you. You can also change her appearance in so many ways. You can change the hair and skin color. You can change the color of her dress, and so on and so on. I mean, really go with the flow, go with intuition. And you can play around with the colors. You can try them out on photocopies of the design also. I like to do that, just very quick testing. Okay, we're gonna add a little bit of white spatters. I want to say here then that when you spatter on top of the pan pastel layer, it's a little bit tricky. It's because the pastel is a little bit water repellent, so it's gonna like pearl a little bit, but just leave it to dry. Just leave it to dry. It's gonna sit like pearls on top. It's a little bit of a problem, but just leave it to dry, and some of it at least will stay. So it was just a little bit of sprinkly white, and then we're gonna add some stars also, and enhancing a little bit of white here and there everywhere. You can spend a lot of time on that. It's gonna make your painting super beautiful to spend time with that. It's a nice thing to do, to bring out the lights and the highlights and the, yeah. So I'm gonna add some stars intuitively based on the spatters. I like to do the spatters first and then use those as like a kind of blueprint for adding the stars. So I'm working kind of slow here and really trying to ask intuitively where those stars wants to be. And then in the very end of the session, I'm going to show you how I add shininess to those stars. I love that part. But don't go overboard. Sometimes I go overboard with that. It's going to be very dominant. So just add a few shiny stars. And hold back a little bit. We're just going to do that now. You can do that with many different materials. We're just going to do that with a white color pencil here. If it doesn't work, you can use a thin Posca pen. Depends a little bit on what is underneath. So, as I said, remember to hold back a little bit. Don't make too many of those shiny stars because they're going to be pretty dominant. So I'm really trying to remember that here. Sometimes I make too many of them. But it's a nice shiny thing to add. I really love it. And then you can make a little bit of haze successively with pan pastel. Gonna do that. So you can see I'm just taking a little bit of a cotton stick and adding a little bit of pan pastel in the middle, both on the shiny stars and also to some of the others, so we get a little bit of a variety. That's nice. I love that. I can't resist. I love to make stars everywhere in my paintings. So we're getting really close to the finishing line here. Also adding a few of those more like pointy stars to add variety. They are also really nice. And I think they look beautiful together. The one of kind of stars and the others. Okay, we're really getting close to closing this session. So I think I'm just going into the stage here where I kind of say prayers and say thanks to the painting, and looking a little bit at what I did and slowing down and yeah, saying thanks to the art process. And then remember to stop before you go too far. Oh yeah, in the very big end of this, I got that idea of adding those like lines to the painting. I got that idea in the very, very, very last moment, and I think it changed the whole painting actually. That was really nice. Just something I did really quick, but it added a whole new perspective of detail. Super nice. Okay, so thank you so much for painting with me, with watching this session. I will look very much forward to see your painting, and really looking forward to see what you create and how it went. I'll see you later. Bye bye.